Okay, so we are going to be talking Blender and scripting today. And basically the main setup for Blender when you have a scripting window open. And the first thing that I want to talk about is actually just getting the tab going. The next thing that I want to talk about is changing your preferences so that as you mouse over something, you'll see the Python tooltip. And then the last thing I want to do is show the folks who use a Mac computer how to open it up from a terminal and to actually create a little alias for that. So those are the things that I want to cover today. First things first, as we open up Blender, what we'll need to do is to go into one of these tabs across the top for scripting. And so when we're here, we have quite a bit of information that just shows up right away. One of the first great things is you see the console, and you can directly write into this right now. So like if I wrote exit and then hit return, then the whole program would just stop. But the other part that you're seeing here, you have a little viewport, and then you're also going to get your script. And so each one of these menus you can get to up here by this little drop down. And we have our text editor and scripting. And in order to actually start a new script, you have to hit new up top. You can also open a prior script, but when you hit new, and then there's a couple different buttons that are up here. We have the gutter numbers, so you can turn that on and off. I like those on. And then we also have syntax highlighting that's specific to Python, so we want to have that. The next thing is up across the top here. If there's stuff that's in this menu that you want to see, but you can't see it, if you press and hold on your middle mouse button and drag, you can go left and right. And that works for all of these things. So that's pretty handy. There's the only thing that's over here is this run script, and there's a shortcut for that. And it's just Alt-P or Option-P on a PC. And you can see down here all of the things that we're doing. And so I can click and hold on these things, and I can just copy them, and I can put that into code right away. The first thing that you have to do for any of this code, if you're going to be writing any kind of Python code, why aren't you deleting? Seriously, I should just be able to delete this. There we are. I think when it was highlighted like that, it was inhibiting me to delete it. So you have to do the import BPY, and that's actually calling on Blender to import all of the information from Python. But you just saw my Achilles heel in coding. I'm going to just admit to you, I'm dyslexic, and I have a little bit of dysgraphia with numbers, so like 9s will turn into something else, and B's and D's and numbers. It's all weird. So that, and I'm not really detail oriented, so I'll drop that colon. I'll just drop it, and the whole code will break, and that sucks. So anyway, the very first thing that we have to do is import BPY to get any kind of script going. And then if I wanted to delete something, I can just hit this X, and I can delete it. And now I see right here that BPY .ops.object.delete use global equals false. I can now copy that and hit paste. And if there was an object there, I could delete it. So right there, I'm already able to use these two things together. One of the things that might be helpful if you don't want to see the console is actually switching to the info window, which this is down here. It's like the same thing, but you don't necessarily need the console while you're writing code. At least I haven't yet. So I just keep the info window open and go from here. Now on Windows, if you are using a Windows machine, having the consoles open would be good because now you'll be able to see your errors. So I'll just do Python console. On a Windows machine, you have another little option that helps you actually see the Windows console. On Macs, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, you can't actually see what's going on. So if I have erroneous code, I can't see what line that code is on just right here in the application. So the goal right now is to write just a very, very fast little bit of code, and then run that script. And the first thing that I've got is I've deleted something. Well, the next time I run this code, if I hit run script, there's like nothing to delete. So what I need to do is add something to delete. And here's where this gets really nice. I want to add something. I hit Shift A, Mesh, Cube, fine. And now down here in my info window, I can see that I've just added a cube. And now I can come up here and in line 2, it doesn't necessarily need to be line 2, I can add a new primitive, and then I can delete it. And so if I was to run this script, it adds something and deletes it. Script. So you can see it's adding it, deleting it, and it's doing it again and again. So if I delete this first and then run script, I'll add it and delete it. And it happens so fast that it doesn't really make sense. But you get the idea. Now, the shortcut to running script, again, is Alt-P, runs your script. And the benefit of running a script like that is you can just check it after each and every line. I highly, highly recommend running your script frequently, basically after you do every little thing. The other thing that I want to tell you in this class to do is, especially when you're first starting to write code, hash out every single thing that you do, so that not only when you come back to this code, you have like a little note that tells you what it does, but it also helps if you're going to share it with somebody and they can see it too. So this, I just use the hashtag for that, and then I just write a quick comment, imports the Blender library into, oh, sorry, Python library. Into Blender. And then hash out adds a cube, and then deletes a cube. Cool. And so that's all handy, but another thing that's kind of handy, if you don't have something hanging out just over here in your info panel, let's say that you want to change this render engine from Eevee to Cycles. Well, when I click on Eevee and go over to Cycles, if I just hover for a second, I'll see what Python code I need to be able to get that to happen. So if I'm looking over here, I can see Python render settings.engine.bpy.data.scenes, list the scene itself, which is cycles, and then .render.engine. And so I know what I need to look for, which is this right here. And now I would put that right in the beginning, because no matter where I was, I would want to change the render engine to cycles right at the beginning, right? And then I would copy that in. And so in this way, I can go ahead and see what I'm looking for. Now, in order to do that, that's in our preferences. So we go Edit and Preferences. So under Interface, Python Tooltips, you just need to turn that on. And then if it's not on, you see that you get the tooltip, but you don't get anything with the Python code in it. And as we are scripting, we'll probably want that Python script to show up there so we can see what's what. And that's that. So I'm just going to save my preferences. And then you should check auto-save preferences in here too, so that anytime you open the application, you don't have to resave those. Sweet. So that's that. Now I'm going to open up another kind of deeper tutorial. I followed this from Curtis Holt, so I'm just going to open this up, save, and I'm going to go to the second one. Quick little note, I always use the same naming convention when I'm working on my files. And so I'll start with a day and then describe what it is, and then come in here and put a different version on it. And one of the beautiful things about Blender is we're really just talking about code. So these files, unless you're packing them with JPEG information or other kinds of textural data, they tend to be pretty small. They're just code. So save frequently, save as frequently, so you've got different steps, and then that's where your MK1, 2, 3, and so on goes for. Where that's really beneficial to have that same naming convention everywhere is if you know what day you were working on a project, you can just simply type it in, and everything that you did that day shows up in your search. And so as long as you've got your calendar there, you're good to go. And that took me a long time to learn that little trick. Okay, so what I've got here is a tutorial that I was following from Curtis Holt. I'm just going to switch this over to the render engine. And you can see I've got comments, and sometimes I'm hashing before, and sometimes I'm hashing on the same line. Remember, the hashtag just tells the Blender render engine, or the Blender scripting engine, to not pay any more attention to anything after that hash mark on that line. And so what's nice is I can share this file with you, and you'll be able to see exactly what every single line of code does, and that's really super beneficial so that later on you know what you're dealing with and you can kind of go from there. But this code in particular is will break when I do something to it, and so I believe it will break anyway. I'm just going to change a couple of these variables. So I'm going to say I want it to be at 2, at 1, and at 4, and then do this radians, which is how it rotates, at 45 degrees, and we'll keep this at 90, because why not? And then we see all of this stuff, and when I go to run the code, it might work, it might not. Sure, it just didn't work. Now here's why I need to show the Mac people how to see your terminal. Right now, the Python script failed. Check the message in the system console. Well, when I go to console, at least with the current version of Blender that I'm using, I don't have access to the system console. If you're on a Windows machine, you do have access to Windows console in this list. So in order to do that, I need to quit the application. I'm going to go ahead and save this. So let me just save as for today. You can see I was prepping this a couple weeks ago. And this is MK1 for today, and I'll leave it in the same folder for now. Cool. So quit the application. Now, for those of you who are using Blender on a Mac, I'm just using a quick shortcut to get to my applications window. You can type up here to Spotlight. I usually hit Command Spacebar, and that takes me to where all of my stuff is, which is why my dock tends to be pretty empty. But when I want to go to the actual enclosing folder for this, I'll press and hold Command, and then tap Return. And that will take me to where that application or where that file or whatever it is that you're looking at exists. Now, for us, what we need to do on a Mac is we actually need to right-click on it, Show Package Contents, and then this is where all the guts of the applications live. And under Resources, I believe it might be Mac OS. Yeah, right here, this guy. So it's not under Resources, it's under Mac OS. This right here is the executable file that opens up from terminal. It's not an executable file, but if it was on a PC, it would act like an executable file. What you need to do is you need to right-click on this, and you can see my alias, it's right there, and make an alias. And that creates this alias that then you can pull out of this space and really put it anywhere you want. And so the benefit of launching Blender from this alias is it's a terminal launch. So what you'll see here is a terminal window will open, and terminal is like a command line window or other kinds of coding windows, and basically it launches the application so that you can have your window open, and then I'll just kind of scoot this over ever so slightly, and now because that's open in the background, I can go File, Open Recent. I've got my most recent file here, and you can see what's actually happening in the code in the terminal. Now when I hit Option P inside my, gotta make sure I click in there, Option P, I can see this script. Now again, if you're on a Windows machine, you'll be able to see the Windows console right here, but there's no way to see that on a Mac without opening it here. Now the benefit of this is I can actually see where the error comes from with this. So it's saying I deleted one object, and then the traceback to the call this specific file in line 95. So I need to go now to line 95 to debug this. And it's this problematic save business. So I'm just going to go ahead and excise this, delete that out, and then I'm just going to hit run again, and this time it ran just fine. Again, you can go to your scripting tab. You have to open up a new text. You have these options for your gutter, your line wrapping. You can run your script. You can also run it with Alt-P. From there, we have our console. We have our info we can copy and paste things out of. We went to preferences so that we could turn on Python tooltips. And lastly, we dug into where Blender lives by searching for it in Spotlight. Just need to get to my Finder window. Here we are. And then right-clicking on this, Show Package Contents, going into the Mac OS, making an alias here, pulling that out, and launching Blender from that alias. And the reason we do that is so that we can have our debug console here and behind the scenes. And that is what I came to show you today.